Good morning, guys. How you doing? I just wanted to take a few minutes this morning to show you where we are with the wood supply this year. And also, like a month ago or so, I said I bought a new saw and I wanted to show you guys what I bought. So I thought today I'd go ahead and show you what I got and why I got it. So I've got my two Holzhausens here. I've got the one in front, which is my wood that is not seasoned and may not be ready to burn this winter. And then I've got the Holzhausen back there, which is where I'm putting all the ash and the wood that I find that's been cut over a year ago, but it's just not dried out yet. So I did get a chance over the weekend to get out and split. This is all that maple that I found in the free firewood video. And, you know, some of these are fairly straight grained, but I started out trying to use my maul to split it. And there were a few knots in the log I was splitting, but my axe was just getting stuck in the log, you know, and then you have to kind of fight with it to get it out. And one thing that occurred to me when I was doing that was, for me, I usually have better luck if I split wood, you know, like within a month of when it first falls, or once the wood completely dries out, because it you know, when it completely dries out is ideal. But I find if you get it in the middle ground there, sometimes it can become not punky per se, but it doesn't split as easly. And it may just be a few of the pieces that I grabbed. So long story short, I did use a log splitter to split all that free firewood maple and get it on the Holzhausen here. And then over here, this is wood that to the best of my knowledge was either standing dead wood. It was cut over a year ago. Wood that I feel very confident is going to be ready to burn come October. It's seasoned. The wood is, you know, over a year old. It just has to dry out. And most of this is ash, but sometimes, so there's some ash for you, which is fairly light, but that could still dry out more. And then, you know, I've got some, when I've been scrounging, I've been finding, you know, dead logs or branches and cutting those up as well. Unfortunately, this pile isn't as far along as I'd like it to be, so I just, you know, work with what I got and we'll see where we end up. That's all I can do. I do just want to take a minute to show you guys my log splitter setup, which you may or may not have seen before, but I thought this was a pretty good working example of the way I'm doing it. So I put the log splitter on these are stall mats. You get them at Tractor Supply. They're 4x6. So I put two of them underneath the log splitter. I put the log splitter up on, I think those are like 3-inch or 4-inch tall cinder blocks to get the wheels off the ground. And that way I've got it a little bit higher. In the winter when there's snow and ice, this black stuff is easy to clean off. So I like the way this is. And then I put a bucket over the motor, and then I put a tarp over the splitter. But what I did was I parked my truck over that way, and I was just using the wheelbarrow to get a wheelbarrow at a time. I put the wheelbarrow right next to the splitter here. And then I just ran the splitter at like a 1/3 throttle and fed the logs through. And, you know, once you get used to using the splitter, to split a log, you're only moving it like 4 to 6 inches in travel. So don't get me wrong, full throttle, full bore production is faster. But I am trying to just enjoy the process, enjoy being out here. So I just went with a 1/3 throttle. And you know, you just slowly feed them through, and once they're split, I just put them right in the wheelbarrow and bring them over. So, you know, one wheelbarrow at a time, I'm really not moving at all. And I did start, you know, I started splitting. That's all wood that should be good for my burn this year pile. So I did bring some of that over, split as well. One thing I was thinking about as I was doing this was, you know, where this little foot is to hold the splitter up. If I were to weld something on the splitter farther out and put that foot farther out, it would be very easy to just grab a rake and just rake up all that junk that always collects under. You see how there's really not much junk out that way. And the other thing I was thinking, and I saw another video about this too, was for some reason this table here never really sits as far in as I'd like it to be, and it always feels like it's going to slide off. And I was thinking, you know, maybe an idea is to do something with like some threaded rod that would snug up this tray. I don't know if the hydraulics, if the log ever catches the tray, you want to have some give, or if once you lock it in, it wouldn't catch the tray. I don't know. And then the only other thing was I think when I reviewed this splitter, I said how, you know, sometimes I'll have logs fall through this area, and you know, it would be nice to either weld something on here, or, you know, honestly, just to go out and buy, you know, find this size metal. There's only, you know, 4 small welds on each one. You could probably cut them off with a grinder fairly quickly, and then just cut new ones and have them longer and have the, you know, the OEM look. And I suppose you could do the same thing over here as well. It's very doable. One thing I like to do with equipment is, you know, get it just the way you want it, because you're going to be using it so much, why not? And so that's why the splitter here is the way it is because every year I think of things I'd like to do better. I bought the 4-way wedge, I bought the table, I put it up on cinder blocks, I gave it the mat around it, and so you just keep making it better and better until it's either idiot-proof or the most convenient way possible to do the job and make it productive and pleasant. So I just wanted to bring you guys in the shed and show you my chainsaws, but just while we're on the topic of things being productive and pleasant, I did install a little LED light here, which is it's just on a cord. There's not even a switch for it. But if I'm gonna be in the shed for a while or organizing, I'll put this on, and it's just literally a night and day difference in the shed. And this light, which is very bright, it's actually 15,000 lumens. It's a 5,000K color temperature. But for the shed here, it just makes it so much more pleasant to be in rather than this dingy shed. But what I wanted to show you folks was chainsaw row here. And what I've been doing, you know, this year now that I've been using the saws again, is I'll try to leave a little tag on them where I'll say when it was last run. The premix gas may or may not. I mean, basically I run everything with premix now. I put a new plug in this one. I think this is my 036, and then this would be the 046. So I last used it July 2022. I tend to touch up the chains before I put them away, but then if I come take them out again, I can't remember if I did or I didn't. So this is basically just so I know I don't have to sharpen them. Ethanol-free gas used, and then on this one, you know, whatever notes you want to put, I just put that it started in 2 pulls, which is good. That means the more you run them, the easier they start. Notice the 066 here, the fuel in the tank has this kind of darker color, which this is not the ethanol-free fuel, you know, the premixed gas, I call it, as opposed to the 046 and the 036 where it's lighter. So I really need to either run the fuel out of this one, drain the fuel out of this one, run some of this stuff through it, and that way the gas won't go bad and gum up the carburetor and lead to that mess. So the 066 and the 020 both need to be they need to be run, because I haven't run them in a while. And that's the other thing, is now you can say, oh, I did run that recently, but if it's been more than 6 months, you can take it out and cut a few logs just to give the saw some exercise. But the 020 and the 066 definitely do need to be run, and the pre-mixed gas and oil, ethanol-free, put in. And the same with my little T535. Got the date last used. It's electric battery, so it doesn't really matter. But then I wrote on that I sharpened it with a 3/16 file, which is Buckin Billy Ray recommends that. And I do notice it cuts a little bit better with the 3/16 file. So I left a note there that that's what I use. So when I do use it, I don't forget. And then finally, this is what I wanted to show you folks. And so we'll bring this in the garage and show you a little bit more. I was out scrounging for firewood maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. And I had this little guy here, which is a T535i XP. So it's got this little bar on it. Let's see. I think it's about 10 inches if you measure from the dogs. So for all intents and purposes, that's about a 10-inch bar. And I found a log that was probably a touch larger than the bar, but I just decided to, I had the saw in eco mode. I just, rolled the saw over on the back and then came around to the front and cut it. And this little guy just handled it awesomely. It wasn't the fastest in the world, but I had a nice edge on the chain. And it just worked its way through, dropped the log, and I cut probably 12 to 16, let's say it was a 14-inch diameter log. With the saw, no problem. The battery still had 1 bar left. I'm not sure how much longer it had. So at that point, I just started to wonder to myself, why this is the last generation of battery saws. I started to wonder to myself, why don't I have the newer generation of saw, which, every generation they seem to take the guide bar lengths another 2 to 4 inches. So I went to my dealer and I picked up this 540i XP, which, I watched some videos on YouTube. Hopefully I'll be making some soon. But this is a 16-inch bar chainsaw, which from the dogs were actually, I would probably call that one, the truth of the matter is it's a 14 and a half, but we'll just say it's 15. But you've got more power, a longer chain, and it's just so nice to, it's light. It's just so nice to be able to have the saw in the truck, not be, smoking the fumes. It's got low power mode, so the battery can last a while. And it's just, I don't know how to say this without being like an electric battery fanboy. And if I offend anybody who's a gas fanboy, I don't apologize. I just want to say, for my situation, this is what's working for me. But I certainly understand if you're doing all day cutting. For me, for firewood cutting, if I can just go out, I actually don't even have a battery yet, because this needs so you can use the 5.4 amp hour battery, which is this battery right here, which is what I use in this one. I have a weed whacker. I have a little handheld blower I use. So you could use that battery in this one, and I made a few cuts with it, but I basically ended up overheating the battery. When I cut like a 12-inch log, that battery was too small, which is why we're not even going to do test cuts today. If you're getting a saw for cutting larger stuff, you want the bigger battery. So I have a 9.2 amp hour battery on order, which may or may not be here in September. When it gets here, but I wanted to have the saw. And when I was using this in that, maybe it was like a 14-inch log. It was the same log I used for the gas versus battery comparison. I used this one, and it was just zipping through it like nothing. And the other thing is they have some kind of a narrow kerf chain on this. Not sure you guys can see that or not, but it's like a narrow kerf chain. I don't know exactly what it is yet. I really haven't gotten into playing with this saw much yet, but it's just so light. I mean, there's no battery in it now, but going back to my 020, which is 30 years old, this saw is so heavy, which is fine if you're on the ground. But I guess with plastics, the saws have gotten lighter and lighter. And it just blows me away with how much power and lightweight you can have. So at some point, I will have a video showing off this 540i XP. Maybe we can do these 3 saws for comparison. If you buy the larger battery for this saw, you need to buy the QC500 charger. So I bought the charger and the saw, and when the battery gets here, I'll get it. I had a QC330 charger. Actually, I'm not sure. The QC330, I had a little bit of trouble figuring this out. So you may not have needed the QC500 charger to charge the bigger battery, but I got one just so it was never an issue down the road. The limiting factor with these saws seems to be the size of the battery more than the power of the motor. Don't get me wrong, the power is important, but with the bigger battery, it works better. So basically what I was trying to say was this saw, with that battery, probably would cut similar sized wood to that, but I was going for something. Actually, no, it wouldn't, because it was definitely overheating with that battery. So long story short, enough rambling. If you're going to buy this saw, get the big battery, because that's really what you want, the 9.2 amp hour battery. But if you're going to get this saw, the 5.2 amp hour battery, the power demand isn't that great that you can just run the whole battery down on full charge while cutting, and it's geared towards that battery. So this battery is great for, maybe guys that climb, but for me, it's more my limbing saw, removing branches around a landscape. If I was doing a job where I wanted to take some shrubs out, I'd reach for this in a second. And then this saw is getting more up into the firewood cutting size. From what I've seen, I really like this 540i XP. It's not cheap. Whether the cost justifies not having to go buy gas, not breathing in gas fumes, being able to store the saw in your truck, the convenience of battery where you just hit a button and go. Oh, and the lower noise of battery. The thing that these HUSQVARNA saws have, and maybe most of them do, is they have this eco mode, which I love, because, well, it also, all the HUSQVARNA equipment, and again, this may be standard with all manufacturers, but with the HUSQVARNA chainsaws, if you put in eco mode, it's like 70% or 80% power, so it doesn't run as fast, but it's like the optimum spot for running the saw, so the battery lasts longer. But when you run it in eco mode, the pitch is much more comfortable on my ears. I have tinnitus, so I use plugs and earmuffs when using chainsaws and all power equipment now, but in the eco mode, it's a much more pleasant sound, and it's not as loud. All right, guys, and then the last thing I wanted to just show you was I did place an order recently for some supplies for the chainsaws, And I already removed all the labeling stuff, but I just wanted to show you, what I got. So I ordered from this place called Frawley's. Is that in focus? Frawley's Saw Shop and Variety Store, and it's loggerchain.net. I thought it was .com, but I'll put a link in the description to the saw, and this place is more designed for people that know exactly what they want. I mean, you can be a little bit overwhelmed if you go there, even if you do know even if you kind of do know what you're looking for, but you can buy custom lengths of chain from those guys. They've got like, let's say a 3/8 pitch, 050 gauge, 72 drive link chain. They'll have like a whole page of Oregon chains, in that pitch and gauge, and then they'll just have how many drive links you need based on the saw. But to find that, you have to actually know, I think that's a 72 JGX or LGX chain. You have to know which you want. But first off, I got a box of 5/32 files, and I got a box of 3/16 files because I was down to my last 3 or so. I always like to have some backup files so I don't get cheap with the files and end up using a dull file, and then it slides across the tooth and I cut myself. So I got 2 boxes of files there, and then this is 91 PX45 Oregon. So this is chain for the little HUSQVARNA, the 540i XP. And then this also, this is, so this is 72 EXL, 72 drive link. So that would be for a 20-inch steel bar. And I don't even know which is... All right, so 72 EXL. So it doesn't have the anti-kickback, the extra drive link for anti-kickback. This is a full chisel chain, which means it's got a square corner on the tooth. You guys are probably seeing none of this. I apologize. And then it doesn't have any of the kickback stuff on it, so it's more likely to kick back but easier to sharpen. So that's that. Let me show you this advanced cut. Or not. All right, so this is Oregon Advanced Cut, which is for the T545i, and this also, you see? You guys probably can't see. It's actually got the tooth you grind down for your depth gauge, but it's also got like a little bumper there to make sure you're safe. And then this is 91 PXL. Sorry, all right. This is the same as that. And then this is another the same. So basically I just got 2 extra chains for my 20-inch saws and 2 extra chains for the T545i. And I did just want to show you, when you store your files, you want to store them where they're not going to rub together. So you could open this box and keep it in your travel toolbox. But what I've noticed happens is it gets wet in there. It's a rainy day or something. Your box gets wet. Your files start to rust. The paper mats into them. So years ago, I bought these little file cases, And I'll see if I can find some and put a link to this in the description and some other stuff I talked about in this video. But I like these. They only carry, looks like I can only fit 9 7/32 files. But this way, and what I do is I put them in straws in there. So that way they don't bump together. But moisture can't get in there, dirt can't get on them. So they're either in here and they're sharp and ready to go, or they're sitting on the top here with a straw around them, and they've got the name, the number on them, and they're good to go there. So that was something else I just wanted to mention to you. But I'll see if I can find those file cases and put a link in the description. I'll also put a link over here is where I store my little cards. I had to buy a case of these, so it was probably $40 to $50. So for the rest of my life, I'm going to have these. I store them in the house, and I just bring out one grouping at a time. And then I'll just I keep a Sharpie over here on the workbench to write on. All right, guys, well, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. Hopefully I gave you some ideas for your wood gathering activities. I think I got a little bit rambly on this one. I've been meaning to make this one for such a long time that I kept adding things I wanted to say to it. So apologies if it was really boring. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of it. We will see you guys soon. I will keep working on my wood supply for this year, sadly, and we'll keep you posted. Take care, guys.